The boys at Tactical Application Vehicles have been up to their old tricks, and that is building some of the most badass vehicles on this planet. And this time, it's a long travel Land Cruiser 200 series that's been converted to a 4-season camper with a queen-size bed. I'm more than confident that there'll be other videos of this thing on YouTube, but none as in-depth as this. I want you to get a sense of how masterful these guys are and how much thought went into this insane Land Cruiser. Chapters are included if you want to skip around, but I recommend watching the whole thing through. Let's get into it.
Hey guys, Tyler with Independence Overland. So today we are back here with Walt from Tactical Application Vehicles, and we are checking out the coolest Land Cruiser of all time. They built a long travel Land Cruiser, cut the body off the back of this thing, and put a camper on it. And so this is a partnership with Enduro campers, correct?
Yep.
And then they did the long travel suspension. So we're just going to go through. Walt knows more than I ever will about this stuff, so he's going to explain what all they've done here, and the benefits of a build like this, of course, are huge, but he will dive into some of the details on this. So if you want to just walk us around it and explain everything you've done to it.
Yeah. So the whole idea behind this was to do a high performance, higher performance driving truck, a Land Cruiser with a high performance camper, meaning a little bit more luxury in a camper that you would typically see. With doing that, we wanted to shave weight, save a lot of weight, shave weight off of the truck, but with that, we already had a platform in mind for suspension. Suspension is last. We'll talk about that last, because that's kind of the order you need to do this. We got to know what the truck's got to do first, but with a camper like this, we didn't want to modify the frame. We wanted to keep it a factory wheelbase so it could still fit in places and be very maneuverable. The factory style bumpers, where they go in the factory locations, like a lot of this stuff is in factory locations so it can be repeatable. So front bumper, it doesn't affect the camper very much, but it is weight that lives on the truck.
Right.
So that's kind of where suspension comes in the front. But knowing how much weight we shaved off of the back, or how much weight Leif shaved off the back by cutting it at the B-pillar, that was about 800 pounds and change. So a little over 800 pounds came off of this truck. So you figure with seats, rear doors, the roof, the rear hatch, all of that stuff that came out of it.
Right. Then
with the composite shell is about 500 pounds. So you put that back in place, you still are under what the stock truck would have been weight-wise.
That's crazy.
So then put a fridge and all that stuff in there, and where he put that fridge and all the batteries and water tank and everything is literally in front of the axle. So you couldn't really balance it any better than that, any kind of weight. And that weight still, it's kind of marginal when you look at how big this looks.
Right.
It's just empty space inside, basically, and with it being a composite the way it is, it's extremely lightweight. Balance-wise, if you look at where weight would be, this is so light right here. This is all carbon fiber and Kevlar and stuff around the bottom. So
it's carbon, huh?
This is carbon underneath here.
That's crazy.
So that's all carbon fiber on the corners and everything. So with that being closed, there's hardly any weight at all above where your head would be. In this truck. So even if you're sitting in the driver's seat where the counter is in the back, everything that's heavy is below your shoulder height down, and it's forward of the axle. So you can imagine how that balance might feel on a truck like this. So having an idea of what the weight would look like. So he weighed the truck before they cut it, and it was about 6,200 pounds. And then after he put all this on there, now we've got long range fuel on this too, so close to 50 gallons of fuel capacity in this thing with 18 gallons of water. The wet weight of this is about 7,200 pounds. So this whole truck, as you see it, is still within GVW.
That's crazy.
So it handles
That's amazing.
It handles like a 4Runner would.
Right.
It's so small and light still, but when you get in here, when this thing's open and the bed is pushed up in the up position, 4 or 5 adults can just hang out. We were hanging out in there the other day just having chips and salsa on the counter.
It's so big inside there.
Everybody had a place to sit and just kind of hang out and stand. It was plenty of room,
right.
So, but knowing kind of how he wanted to drive the truck is important. That's key. We want to find that out.
Right. How
many people are going to travel in it? If it's him and his wife and a dog or something like that, this is a 2-seater.
Yeah.
This gave us a good place to start as far as the platform goes. The 200 series being a very, very robust chassis. That was another thing that I noticed in some of the comments before is well, why couldn't you do this on a 4-door Tacoma or something like that? Well, the 200 series chassis is a very, very stiff frame because the body is all one piece, right? So if Leif made the camper one piece with the body, it still has to be on a body mount. Right. So with it being a very rigid frame, and the suspension design, we didn't want to modify that. We don't want to have to change that. There's really no need to for this kind of platform. So it's a Tacoma, when you look at what a Tacoma frame looks like with C-channel and stuff, it's designed to be flexible.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really want to, and a Tacoma bed is hard mounted to the frame, whereas the body is on a body mount that moves and flexes. So it flexes independently of a bed. So with this being all one piece anyway from the factory, being on a body mount still, really he just had to figure out how to do the body mounts for the camper, because this is all now connected, even though then there's a pass-through. So when you look at some of the pictures that he shot, it was just one big piece of metal that went across the back. Then they cut the opening for it. So then they grafted it all together. So bonded and bolted it all together, and that made it all one piece, and it's all sealed. So he worked the magic on that on the camper. We built the truck first, kind of knowing those weights we needed and the performance aspect we needed realistically with what a camper would do. Now, when Rick was driving this, the client was driving this, we did see this come off the ground.
Yeah.
He was going a little faster than he wanted to, but this truck can be driven pretty aggressively. It's not designed to be a pre-runner. It's not designed to be long travel as far as like desert running fast. It does handle speed better just naturally because the suspension can soak some of that stuff up. It has more room to soak up, changes on the ground with the amount of weight that it's having to control. So with that is inside the shock sets, there's a very specific valving that we wanted to go with from the start, and the spring rates. The spring rates is what holds the weight of the truck. So with those things considered, tire size, how we wanted to run a 35-inch tire on this, given the sidewall height of the tire and the suspension components we're running, pushes the width of that tire out away from the truck in the control arms themselves, not the wheel dimensions. It's the control arms are longer, so it pushes that away, making it allowing your tire to steer and compress and move like it should without hitting everything. So that's why we're able to use the tire size that we did. And the 200 series in general, I mean, it's got a 5.7 liter V8. It's a strong V8. It can move weight around like it's nothing. This thing is a snappy driving truck. Like throttle response is pretty snappy in it. It feels really good just driving around town. But with everything closed down, you can still fit through the drive-through. You can drive it like a normal truck, as you would like just a regular rooftop tent or roof rack. That's basically the real estate that you've got here. So with a short wheelbase like that, you can spin this thing around right in the booth. Like you could turn this thing like it's
pretty nice.
Kind of wild, how small it feels. But
and it doesn't look like it would be as big on the inside as it is for sure. It's very surprising, and I'll get into that here in a few minutes. So on the suspension, you guys went with Radflow on this, and I know you guys have been big on Radflow recently. You want to go over that a little bit?
Yeah, so we've been talking, so after COVID, as everybody knows, there's lead times with everything, and we've been working exclusively with King because we can build a King. Like we'll send King the schematic of what we want inside the shock for how the truck's going to be driven, and that's our baseline. So they send the shocks to us, set up the way we want it, from the beginning. If we need to tweak it from there, we can on the bench. But King's lead times went way out, like because all of our trucks are built per order. So if we needed to order a set of Kings, it was like 13 months out at one time.
Wow.
Now they have drastically improved that. Like it's not like that now. It's nowhere near that now. So, but in that time, we had to find an alternative, and we wanted something that we could give input to, a company we could give input to, and get the performance aspect the same as a King. Radflow can do that. There's a little bit of a different valving, like the high-speed valve gate that's on a King with the adjuster knob is opposite with the Radflow. That's your low speed on a Radflow. Now we can build Kings and Radflows to have high and low speed compression and all of that stuff, but somebody's going to really have to want to tune that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just have a single adjuster knob and your road changes or your road conditions change, at the next stoplight you can get out and turn it at 10 clicks and see how that feels. On Radflow, our high-speed compression is built into the shim stack itself. So the resistance that you get through that shim stack as your shock cycles up and down is built into those shims inside. The valve gate that you're adjusting is your low speed. So when you're driving around town here and you want it to feel a little bit different, you can adjust your low speed by the clicker itself. So it's just a little bit opposite. I mean, performance, I feel, is pretty much the same. It's very comparable.
Right.
It just depends on how the truck's going to be driven. But Radflow is doing their Expedition Series shocks where they already kind of set it up for like heavier vans and heavier things like that. So they're already thinking that way in the shock buildup itself, but we can kind of tweak that the way we want it for this application. Because we're kind of, like I said, higher performing suspension. This truck isn't designed to be driven super fast or hard, but it will rock crawl really well. It will go at speed, long distance desert roads like you've seen in Baja, it'll handle that really well, just because the suspension can travel more than stock. So that is a higher performance, setup down there.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. How much travel
You know what? With this one, I haven't measured it because we're changing certain things. Like we do limit some of the up travel and compression travel for the tire size, so we're not hitting the fender because we haven't designed a fender yet.
Yeah.
I feel like we could get a little bit more compression out of it, but honestly, if you limited it that much, you're not going to feel that behind the wheel. So it doesn't really matter at that point. We get a lot of droop out of this. We were actually testing a different set of CV axles, and this thing will droop out so far that it pulled the CV apart.
Oh, wow.
So and it's the right length because the same length of another CV doesn't do that. So we changed over to those other CVs that we've never had a problem with, and that's what we're running. So we're just going back with what we know works, and we're not using that other CV axle anymore. So, but that was just right before we came here. We were just doing some testing, some full stuff type stuff, drooping it out. The last Land Cruiser we did this with, we were just teetering it on 2 wheels, full droop out, and everything was working great. So we kind of tailored this to that one.
Okay.
And we still have a lot more testing we're going to do. We're headed to Moab from here, so we're going to do some more testing and stuff like that. But so far, it's been working out really, really good.
And then as far as sliders and the bumper, are those both Metal Tech?
No. So this is the Descent Off-Road modular front bumper, and we've done this on another Land Cruiser, but we didn't have the bull bar on it.
Okay.
And so this time we wanted to run the bull bar on this, and it literally bolts in right in the top. They give you a cover plate if you're not running this, so it bolts in the top, and you drill some holes in the side, and you bolt it in the side.
That's cool.
So this particular bull bar is extremely lightweight. I just lifted it right in place, and you just kind of set it in place, and then bolt it down, and then mark your holes on the sides.
That's pretty nice.
So it's awesome. It's really, really cool. So it's one of the best looking bull bars I've ever used.
It's got all the sensors intact.
Yeah,
too.
everything's intact. And the cool thing too is, like, if you wanted to get to anything in behind here, like your windshield sprayer or anything like that, you can just undo these bolts, pull this whole thing out, and you can access the back of your sensors, your lights, or anything like that right inside here. So
and if you were ever going to switch any of that stuff out, you could get just a new plate, and you haven't damaged your bumper. That's cool. What kind of a winch? You guys, you're big on come-up winches.
Yeah, the come-up winches are awesome. We've been running those for so many years, and they've been on the Arctic trucks and all that stuff. I mean, gosh, I've been running them for as long as I've been over about 10 years now, So I use them a lot for like pulling trees out of the way. Like we've come across a lot of trails up in New Mexico where we'll be the first ones through that trail on part of the BDR route or something, and we'll have to pull a tree out of the way, cut it apart, and get it drug out of the road, or even just cutting a tree out of my yard. We'll use the winch as a tool, but I like to be able to see the way Descent does this. Your fairlead is mounted down here, down low, but you can see right through here, see your drum.
Yeah, that's nice.
A lot of folks that have watched our videos know I don't like to put something in front of the drum.
You got to see that line when you're winding her up.
Absolutely. So if you've got a winch in there, you want to effectively be able to see your drum. So where you would normally plug in your corded plug is usually mounted on the control box, but we relocate that out to the front of the bumper.
That's smart.
So it's just super easy to get to. And then we have the freedom of stuffing that control box anywhere we want. We don't have to worry about accessing it. So you can just disengage it or engage it over here pretty easily, and then you can run your corded plug here, but this is a wireless winch, so typically you would have just a fob. Okay. I just put a little carabiner on it and hook it to my belt loop. If I need to get out, I can have free use of my hands, but then just run the winch if I need to on a carabiner. And it actually works really good because I've been to where I couldn't even see my truck. I had it on the back side of a garage, and I had to redirect off of a tree to something, and I could just operate it over here, and couldn't even see the truck.
And that comes with the come-up winches?
Comes with every one of them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it comes with a synthetic line and a nice large hook and a Haas fairlead. But so this is the come-up fairlead that comes with it. Yeah. A lot of times we'll run the Factor 55 stuff, the Ultra Hook, because it's multiple tools in one. So we'll run those. But I mean, this is the 12,500 pound winch as well. It's physically the same size as the 9.5, so we just run the stronger winch.
That's cool. And then of course, Baja Designs.
Yes, everybody knows I'm a huge fan of Baja Designs.
Yeah, me too, man.
There's a really cool feature to these Baja Designs where they're laid out on this bumper that I realized actually coming here, because I was driving in front and he had the fogs going because we were in a lot of dust, and I was like, I noticed how effective this was. I didn't really realize, like, with these being at an angle the way they were, kind of shining this direction off the road, you can still see that in your mirror, or if you're oncoming traffic in dust, that it's not the beam itself shining into your mirror like a high beam. Like, it's not overwhelming for whoever's looking at it. It's shining off to the side. So you see the amber of it, but it's shining off to the side. So during the day, if you're in a lot of dust and somebody's coming towards you, they can see you really well with that without it being overwhelming, especially at night. And it's an amber light too, so that's not as intrusive on your eyes as a white light is. So, but with these, if you were running these at night, they're shining down the road. You can't see anything. If you're coming at it, you can't see anything. So this is nice to to have is like a here I am kind of light type of thing. And if you needed it at night, you are shining the light off to the side some.
Right.
So, but then this is your operational down the road light, high and a low beam. So, and you've got some lights on the sides here that kind of overlap each other from both lights. You know, it's kind of a nice wide pattern just out in front of you. So a lot of light with less lights.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, that's what I want to do on the next build. Oh, and you have the rack up there too.
Yeah, so those are LP4s. So you have a backlight in these too. So just when the truck is running, you have a nice amber backlight. So that's another like almost like a clearance light on the roof, but it's just something that an amber light cuts through fog or rain or snow or dust really well. So it's just a simple little running light. This has a high and a low power. So on low power, it's just the bottom 3 diodes,
that's cool.
Or the bottom 6 diodes, and then high power is all of them. And this is a driving combo, so you can see the reflector and the lens is a little bit different. So it's down the road and it's kind of wide too. So it's kind of overlapping fields of light. And then that is just on or off. There's not a higher or low power, and that's a driving combo as well. So so if you figure, a lot of people are like, well, light bars are dumb or whatever. You know, we've got lights positioned different places. Well, if you take a flashlight and you shine it across your face, you know, as a kid, you have shadows across your face. Well, if you raise that light out, you have less shadows. So a light down here can maybe cast a shadow way down the road, but if you have something up higher and it's aimed a little bit different, you can overlap those fields of light and create less shadows, basically.
That is a lot of lumen on that bad boy.
It is. It's a lot of light. And when the amber light penetrates in the darkness different than a white light does. So on our trucks, you'll see a mix of white and amber. Yeah. This one is all amber, but the cool thing about Baja Designs is you can change that out if you want to. So you could change it to a white lens or whatever you want.
Right. So then for what's underneath here on the armor?
Yeah, so keeping with the Descent Off-Road theme, we're running their skid plates. They're aluminum skids. You can kind of see how they cover up where the diff is. It's kind of you've got multiple compound angles in there that create a lot of strength. Right. And it's lightweight, super lightweight. You know, a lot of people think, you know, aluminum may not be strong enough for a skid, but these things, I have personally just bashed the crap out of aluminum skids. Yeah. And if you did happen to bend it, you can actually shape it back. Yeah. It's not that bad, but it's protecting. It's there to protect what's going on underneath the truck.
That's what I've got on the FJ, and I've had to beat them out before, but it's pretty easily doable.
Yep. Oh yeah.
It's loud when you're swinging a sledgehammer aluminum, but yeah, it's doable.
Yeah. Then you know, recovery points. Descent does a good job just putting a simple recovery point up here.
This just looks really good.
Yeah, the aesthetics are really good, and it's all functional. I mean, everything just looks really nice on all their stuff. Kind of moving back right into the front diff. Like this truck is triple locked. So from the factory, it's got the center diff lock, but we run Eaton E-lockers, front and rear on these. Okay. So this truck is geared to 488 gears, nitro gears, and we're running an Eaton E-locker on the front and back. Nice. So true four-wheel drive. And you'll notice on the control arms, there is no more KDSS in this truck. We've completely eliminated the KDSS system, that is like the sway bar system, basically. Right. With the spring rates we run are far heavier than stock, and so a lot of people are like, well, how does that handle? Like, if you were to take the KDSS system off and at stock spring rates, this thing would just be a loose noodle down the road. Right. But with the spring rates supporting what they need to support on all four corners independently, you don't have a computer and a hydraulic system telling you what's happening. You can actually see what's happening on the ground, but when you were to hit the brakes, like say you're going into Silverton, Colorado, and you come around some switchbacks, tight switchbacks on the highway, that KDSS system can feel like something is happening in the truck and it needs to react and counter what you're doing. Right. But as a driver, you can see what's happening. And for me, I cannot stand a computer trying to do something other than what I want the truck to do. Yeah. So by not having that in there, the suspension can move independently on one side of the truck than the other, and the truck can just stay flat. So energy that's happening on the ground and your suspension moving up and down is happening on one corner, and it's not transferring that through a link into the chassis itself, trying to keep the truck level. Right. So the truck can stay level and the suspension can move. So if you go from pavement into dirt and you're at speed, it's amazing how that feels. Right. Like it just goes, and it doesn't try to counter anything or toss you up, side to side when you're pulling into a parking lot. Your suspension can actually move, and the chassis itself can stay flat.
I would like to point out here that he is not just regurgitating information. You obviously understand this very well, which is things that, like, I know how to bolt parts on and stuff, but I do not understand suspension systems like you do. So on the side here for our rock sliders, you did Metal Tech with these?
Yeah, Metal Tech makes really great Land Cruiser parts. We've been using these a lot on the other 200s we've been building. This is a super solid slider, and you can actually stand on it. Like, you can step on it as a step and reach stuff high.
Right.
But you can lift the whole side of the truck up off the ground with this, and that's kind of what it's there for, right?
Yeah.
It's there to protect your rocker panel, and a very, very expensive thing to repair. If you bash that up, you could pivot the truck around a tree with this or over a rock. I mean, it's going to take it all day long.
Yeah, I like how much it sticks out.
Yeah, it's a perfect amount.
Can you put stuff on top of this camper?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's extrusions all around. So there's an extrusion here. You can run, D-rings in if you want to do like a shower awning or something out here. Whatever you want, you can do that. So if you needed to stand on that to unzip something or open something, you could.
Okay.
If you look at it, like, we didn't trim this, to fit the camper on. We kept it factory length, because this would typically come back to where the fender is part of the door on a 200. So this wheel arch is part of the door. So we just kept it there. We didn't have to trim it.
That's awesome.
So we wanted to keep all of that as a factory wheelbase type setup.
And I like the way even that little cut up there, like, it goes with the body lines really well.
They have really good lines to them. We didn't have to do any of that. They do that from Metal Tech, so they've got a really good aesthetic to it.
Looks great. Moving to the rear of this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so you got a whole total chaos thing going on under there.
Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of touching on the suspension. In the front, we're running the total chaos upper and lower control arms in chromoly.
Right.
Super duper strong stuff. For that spindle gusset, cam tab gussets, a lot of gusseting and just strength built into the front end. We move that back into the back. Rear chromoly rear links. It goes into the factory location, so we're not putting new link mounts on the frame or anything. We're using factory link locations.
Right.
And the axle is in its factory location. Now, those are adjustable to where, depending on where our ride height is, that link from the frame will extend, and when you change that radius, that length of that radius, if you were to run a plumb bob straight down, now that bottom link is further in if you were to lift the truck really high.
Right.
So we can actually fine tune that just a little bit to keep it where it would be factory.
Cool.
So at its new ride height. So we don't really have a lift, so to speak, quote fingers, a lift, so to speak, built into the truck. We have this set at 0 inches of lift. It's zeroed out at where it needs to stand to hold the weight.
Okay.
So in the back of any vehicle, that is adjustable in the front on the coilovers when you see them on Tacomas and 4Runners and everything else. Yes, it's adjustable, and they say you can run up to 3 inches of lift.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that.
Do not do that, because you're removing your down travel out of your suspension.
Yeah.
So with this, we're actually increasing our suspension travel in the front. So when you have the rear supporting the weight that it needs to, we can adjust the front to where it's proportionate. And we like to keep a little bit of a nose down rake, so when you do load this up, or you're on an incline, now all this weight is back over your rear axle, it's going to compress your rear springs, and it's going to unload your front. So if we have that preloaded a lot, and we're riding around perfectly level all the time, now then when you get on the slightest incline, your front end's going to want to come up, just naturally, because you have a spring pushing against that when you transfer that weight over the rear axle as you're climbing something. So if we can keep the front end down a little bit, when you go to climb something and that weight transfers over your rear axle and pushes on your rear springs, your front end doesn't want to unload quite as far. So you still have suspension travel in the front end when you're going up.
Right.
So it's a less of a spring your front end around on a hill, right?
Okay.
So it just keeps your suspension moving like it should. So that's kind of where we are with our heights. The truck will naturally sit taller because of the spring rate supporting that weight. And then we have it set 0 inches of lift. Naturally has lift from the tire size and the spring rate, but with what we do, it's not a lift kit or like we're lifting this thing 5 inches or whatever it is, like it's 0. But with that, we can do custom coil spring rates in the back of these. This one is like an Ironman spring. It's like a heavier spring from Ironman. We started with that because we didn't know where we wanted to go with spring rate just yet until we got the truck built.
Yeah.
So, but I'm pretty happy with it. I kind of like where it's at. I like the valving and the shocks in the back. So we're kind of just fine-tuning stuff at that point. So, total chaos links in the back, total chaos adjustable track bar. One thing is very effective is a Dr. KDSS bracket that relocates that track bar back to where your track bar is a little bit more parallel to the ground.
Right.
Instead of it being at an angle now, because the truck is sitting a little taller, that arm was flat like this, parallel to the ground. So when you lift a vehicle like that, this point on your chassis stays the same, and your axle's down here, so it actually does this. So when you go over a straight bump, that radius now points further to the ground, so the axle wants to shift to the side, right? So if the truck goes up and down like this, the axle does this. It swings because that bar is on a radius.
Right.
So if you can bring that bottom point on your axle back up, your axle can move more straight up and down. So when you're going over a bump straight at speed and your truck does this, it doesn't want to do this, the body. So when you hit, it doesn't want to wobble. So it just moves straight up and down, and it feels more planted and straight. So that's where that bracket comes in. It simply just moves that pivot point back up, closer to where it was stock. Cool. Things like that for handling is very important.
Right.
You know, when you have a little bit different shape and moving mass. So it's very effective. We really like working with them on that.
And then you've gone with Toyo tires and methods.
Yep.
Are these bead grips?
This is the bead grip wheel. It's one of my favorite wheels. I like the design of the 703. This is this model 703 from Method. It's a 35-inch tire, 35, 1250, 17 Toyo. It's been out a little over a year now. The Toyo RT Trail. Really digging that tire. It wears like iron, balances really good, super smooth and quiet, but it's a little more aggressive than the other RT. It's just been a great tire.
Looks good.
Yeah, it's got a good look to it too.
Yeah, and the bead grips. I've talked to these guys about the bead grips before. I haven't used them personally, but I know you guys had a blowout and the bead didn't even break on that.
Yeah.
So that's the direction I'm moving towards with the new truck is a bead grip.
Yep, you can side load the mess out of these things with very, very low air pressure. And you side load that, and I mean, you'd have to have a really large surface area, something pushing directly on the bead. And it's not just the outside bead, it's the inside bead of the wheel too.
Right.
So a lot of people don't think that you can lose a bead on the inside. So even if you have a mechanical bead lock wheel, you can side load the inside of a tire too, and you can pop that off if it's not locked in place.
Right.
But with this, that bead grip is on both beads of the rim. So you have the same support on the inside bead as you do the outside bead.
Yeah, when you say something about a wheel like that, because these guys aren't just building this stuff, they'll take this. I don't know if you'll take this particular one since this is for a client.
This one's not mine, so.
But but they do take their trucks down to Baja and they actually use the hell out of it. And so for you to be saying stuff like that, to me, I'm like, that means I need it.
Oh yeah, and then that's the thing too. Like a lot of people underestimate how important this is. This is physically touching the ground, and it's controlling what is moving down the road.
Right.
So kind of like what we talked about earlier is a lot of people will focus on what they want to do up here, but then they just kind of turn their nose up on how much it can cost to put a good suspension system under the truck. Well, that's literally there to move it down the road safely and to hold up over time. So your wheel and your tire is part of that combination.
Right. Then on the rear end of this, I know we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and you've done some unique stuff here, so I will let you explain what you've done.
Yeah, so what we didn't want to have to do a one-off bumper or anything. This is a descent rear bumper as well. We've used these on other Land Cruisers, and I really like them. But the wheel had no need for a dual swing out. This is set up for dual swing out for tires and everything else, but we had no need for that. So we ordered the bumper without that, but they have a concession for their swing out on where it would bolt in, and it's basically 4 bolts on a plate that is really reinforced on the inside. So what we did was use that as our base point for both sides, and we wanted 0 moving parts in the tire carrier. Doesn't need to swing open or drop down or anything. There's nothing back here to have to get into, but I wanted this to be ultra strong.
Right.
So because if this were to get backed into a tree, or if you're just driving down a bad road and bumpers tend to flex, like there's no flex in this part of it. Any flex would be down here in the bumper, which is almost like, I mean, you can kind of shake it, but it's solid.
Right.
And but we have the concessions for their bumper is already set up for the sensors, like the backup sensors and stuff like that. But the cross traffic sensor, Jordan was over at Enduro. He and I worked on the design here, so I was kind of telling him where we want, what kind of material thickness we needed to use, how I wanted to wrap the corners, and just create any kind of joint that was welded was wrapped completely and welded all together. So that was like, there was 0 flex in any of that. But having it mounted into this area, all of this weighs the same or less than dual swing outs with gear on it. So there's less weight actually back here than you typically would have on a dual swing out. And it doesn't stick out any further. Actually sticks out probably a little less with the tire on here than it would with swing outs and gear on it. So when you look at the overall length of the truck, this bumper is where the factory Land Cruiser would be. So the factory Land Cruiser rear hatch would probably be about here, because it opens that way. and then this is the back of your bumpers, and then you would have swing outs. Well, we were able to, Leif was able to push this back, so that's living space. And you look at like what 1 foot gets you in living space, and not having to have any moving parts back here.
Right.
There's minimal weight back here too. So all of that weight is still forward. So you don't, I mean, you won't even feel this back here. And we're still going to be, putting some mounting company mounts here with the Zargus cases on it for recovery equipment. And Max Tracks will actually be mounted flat, hard mounted to this plate here. So there won't be any wiggle to anything, and everything's going to be removable, quick release and stuff like that. So, and then this is the easiest tire I've ever put on a tire carrier, because you can literally just, if you needed to take it off, use the same lug nut key that you would to take your wheel off of the truck, and you can just let it fall on the ground if you wanted to, or and put one on, you just lay it here. There's a safe way to just lift it right onto this, and you can just lift it right up. And there's a like an ABS piece of plastic right here, so it won't scratch your wheel, and you can just spin it.
Oh, that's cool.
You spin it into place to match this up, and you shove it right onto the lugs and zip it down, and it's done. So that was, and then this receiver is for a bike rack. So we wanted to make this all strong enough to where you could put a bike rack in here, have 2 or 3 bikes back here, way up out of the way. So if you were to get rear-ended or something, you're not going to destroy your bikes and drag it down off of a ledge or something if you're out wheeling.
Like even this right here is a nice touch, because that's kind of like what we use at the shop to like lift the tires on for the big rigs. And so being able to pull that out like that, that's a nice support.
Oh yeah.
You kind of get it up with your knee.
You're not sitting there holding it. You just get it. You can, if it's sitting like this and it's sitting on the ground, you can just reach into the back of the wheel and just lean it against your thighs, lean back and set it right on there.
That's awesome.
And then you just lift it right into place.
So, and then you did the custom sensors on the back here, so everything functions as it should.
All that functions like it would. I think we're going to change out the turn signals. We're going to put an S1, a Baja Designs S1.
Cool.
It's just a brighter turn signal, but everything else is good to go.
Is there any skid plates or anything under there?
No, the LRA tank, you can take a pretty heavy hit. It's a steel tank, so we've got a 24-gallon auxiliary tank under here on top of, say, I think it's a factory's 26 gallons on a Land Cruiser. So we're at almost 50 gallons of fuel capacity and an 18-gallon water tank. So got a lot of fluid weight that can be in this, but again, it's down low between the frame and forward usually. The auxiliary tank is right behind the receiver hitch here, but it's probably one of the best places you could put that weight.
Yep, I didn't know that you would top the goat. The Tacoma that we did in
it's just a different animal. Yeah, it's a different animal altogether.
This is definitely the new king. Okay.
The only other thing on the outside is the dirt box awning. We work with dirt box Overland, and these are super cool. It's things like 34 pounds for a 270 awning like this, and it comes standard with your lights on every leg. So you just plug into it and you got lights.
Right.
You can do the walls on it and everything too, and it's just super light and easy to deal with. So the dirt box stuff is pretty awesome to deal with.
Yeah.
Again, weight savings is what we were looking for.
Right.
We wanted the square footage of a 270 awning to come out over the door, that your entryway. But if you wanted to make this a living space, you can put the walls on and have an outside living space, outside the camper.
Yeah, and it's sized just about perfect for this.
It is. It's really, really good.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
It's always cool checking out your new projects.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. It's been a fun one.
So, as of right now, if you guys have any questions about one of these or ordering one of these, you guys can just reach out to Tactical Application Vehicles on this. And of course, the Enduro camper side is handled on your side.
Yeah,
even though
we will. Yeah, we could basically process the entire order for somebody.
Yeah.
And Leif already. I mean, he's already doing them truck conversions and stuff. Like, he's got incredible builds on trucks. So we're going to be working together on doing the entire package, which is the camper on the truck that's built. With all the appropriate suspension components for what the customer is going to need it for. So if they wanted to haul a big trailer or something like that, we can work off of a 1-ton truck chassis with an Enduro camper on it. So we can handle all of that together at one shop.
Okay. I think something else that's important to mention here is that you guys are always building some of the coolest stuff that's at the Overland Expos, but there's also, you guys also you sell dirt box campers, you sell tents, you sell alu-cab, you guys are a vendor, so it's not just TAV is doing these incredible projects if you have the resources to get something like this going, but if you don't, you can just get something like the canopy camper, the dirt box flatbed that we got over here on this Tacoma. And so you guys, and your Mission Overland trailer dealers now.
Absolutely.
So you guys, they've got all sorts of stuff that they can sell, and it's not just one-off custom campers. So I just wanted to mention that.
Any component that somebody sees on one of these trucks, if they've already got a built truck, we can max track, just single components, Baja Designs lights, KC lights. Stuff that we use on all of these vehicles, we've built an incredible relationship with the people that we work with. So we get a really great deal of support after the fact. So if somebody buys something and there's an issue with it, we can usually get it resolved pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And everybody does their best to communicate as much as we possibly can. If there's an issue or if they need something or if something's hard to find, we'll do what we can to try and get them squared away.
Right. And so if a guy has a truck that he's built out, put a bunch of stuff on his own, and it rides like shit now, can he come to you guys and be like, I want a new suspension
we do that a
handles
lot.
this? Okay.
We do that a lot. And most of our clients are out of state.
Okay.
I would say 95% or more of our clients are out of state.
Okay.
We're in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, but we shipped a truck to Mongolia recently. We've
Wow,
got a
that's
client
cool.
in Belize. We've got, a truck. The other Land Cruiser is now in Thailand, I think.
Wow.
So it's,
okay.
He's been all over the place. So I mean, and we can get stuff to them too. Like if they need something, a lot of times it takes time to ship something somewhere, but they can come back to us if they need something in particular. We've got records of everything we do. So torque specs, everything that is on this truck, we have a record of it in our system.
Oh, cool. When
that's we
awesome.
clock in on a job to work on something, on putting a bumper on, we clock in, the tech clocks in, they do it, then they clock out, and then they write down everything they did. They input that. And
Okay.
if there's something in particular, like these 4 bolts were torqued at so-and-so foot-pounds of torque, it's in that. It's in those notes. So that gives us real time of how long
Okay.
it takes us to do these builds. And that's a reference material for us as well to go back into and say,
Okay.
what did we put this at, or stuff like that. So how many feet was this loom that we had to make, or something like that. We've got our own details that we log on every truck we build.
Yeah.
So, if somebody were to come to us and need something, and then they go out of state, they live on the East Coast or the West Coast, and they need something, we have that on file for them.
Right.
So
from somebody that works on a fleet of trucks, it's a small detail that makes a big impact if you're going to have
Yes.
something like this and go anywhere
Absolutely.
with it. Because it's just one of those things. Like I even carry in my FJ, I've got like a little laminated thing of all the torque specs
Yep.
for a lot of stuff.
Yep.
And being able to do that with a camper system, something
Yeah.
that somebody might not be familiar with, that goes a long way.
Or
That's
if they
cool
have to
hear.
go to another shop somewhere, that tech at that shop, like that
don't
other
know.
client was down in South America, and he had a French tech that could barely speak English, but he had to chase down a wire issue. Well, all of our harnesses were labeled to what
that's
it was,
cool.
but it was a faulty light that heated up. So he wanted to disconnect that so he could find out where that was.
Right.
We could get on the phone with him, and he could disconnect that, and then when he came back to us, we could get it fixed.
Wow.
So it was, even if they don't even speak English, and he's in another country, we
That stuff
could
goes a long way.
usually help, troubleshoot something.
Right. Okay.
So-
that's amazing. All right, man. Well, I guess now we'll dive into the camper side, the
Yeah.
Enduro camper side of the body on this thing, which is going to be a whole other story.
Yeah.
Well, right on, Walt. Thank you
yeah,
very much
dude.
for your time as
Appreciate
always.
it, man. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if this is going to be part 2 or just be one long video, but this is Leif from Enduro Campers. He is responsible for the back half of this, for cutting this thing up and making this into what it is. And I wasn't aware of some of this stuff like the carbon fiber that you're using, which is very impressive, and it makes more sense now when I'm hearing that this is only a couple 100 pounds over what it was before. So if you want to kind of take us through the design on this, because I'm sure this, as of right now, this is a one-off, or have you done something like this before?
So traditionally we do frame-mounted truck campers, and so we remove the bed of the truck, frame-mounted, semi-permanent construction. So this is our first one where we've actually grafted it right to the back of the cab of the vehicle. But once it was cut, it basically turned it into a 6-foot bed truck, and then we just had to do the mating, the frame into the cab. But once it got to there, it was essentially pretty similar to our other campers, with a number of challenges, of course, to integrating it with the Land Cruiser. But
Right. Yeah, it's quite a feat here. And so you're not, because of the way you bolted that together, from what I've been told, there's not any flex like there is with the truck camper.
No,
So
not
that's
at all,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then obviously you did a pass-through here, and we'll get into the interior here in a minute. And then I guess, so what size water tank do you have on this?
18 gallons.
An 18 gallon,
Yeah.
which I think is about perfect.
Yep. So you can fill it here with a hose, but you can also fill it directly into the tank too.
Okay.
As access port at the top.
And then this is our external water access, I assume?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So your plumbing systems all fit in there. So there's a 6-liter 12-volt hot water heater in there. There's the Guzzle H2O UV filtration system.
Nice.
So there's the SureFlow water pump, and the accumulator tank as well, all squeezed into that small space. And then you have all the valving, so every single thing is valved, and there's a winterizing port as well too, so you can properly winterize it since this is going to Vermont. And then this is the Aqua Quick Connect faucet. You should probably find it and put it on there, but you just click in a faucet out here, so this will give you outside drinking water access, so that is
Cool.
filtered water as well too through the Guzzle.
Yeah, Guzzle builds good stuff.
Yeah.
And this is our exhaust for the water heater, or for the heater
For the
itself?
air heater.
Okay, for
Yep.
sure. And then
So it's the S-bar gasoline air heater, so it takes the fuel up from the truck's tank. So the construction of the camper is, like all of our campers, is the foam core fiberglass composite sandwich panels. So these are really light, insulating, and that is the structure of the camper. With that, we finish off the edges with carbon fiber. So it's carbon fiber, everything that's Raptor lined is carbon fiber all the way around it. So that gives it a nice permanent seal, so it comes out and it's all one unit, much like a monocoque. So there's no framing in it whatsoever. So that's how we keep it so light. This is a proven construction technique, through other expedition vehicles. It's been around and through our other campers that we built. And then the floor is a honeycomb, structural honeycomb floor. And then below that there are aluminum mounting structures that tie into the factory cab mount locations. And that allows the camper to flex with the cab, so they're all on the same mounting system as well too. And so beyond that, and we have our proprietary extrusions that cap the top. So we have T-slot up there, which allows you to mount the accessories and the latches, the lights, the awning. You can have tie-down points that you can put other accessories into the T-slot just using 5/16 bolts, and then the extrusion up top too. So the roof has a thicker wall thickness, so it's 1.5 inch core, but it's the same construction, so you have a really nice insulated roof as well too. And then on the roof, there's 600 watts of solar, Starlink as well up there too.
Wow, so you have an insulated floor and walls and top, that's awesome.
And tent too, so the tent is also insulated.
Okay.
So it's a dual wall tent, insulated windows. Works very well. So we have the 3-layer windows, the mesh screen, the clear vinyl layer, and the insulated privacy layer as well too to close it off. So we consider it a 4-season camper. So in here, we've squeezed all the water system in there. So you can see the hot water heater. So this is the shower. So the outdoor shower is on the other side. So this is your quick connect shower for the other side, which we'll look at when we get over there. So it's a tight squeeze in there. That was one of the challenges with this, was getting all the plumbing fit in there. So we built it all on the bench to a number of different mock-ups to make sure that it fit in there, but also making sure that it's serviceable too. So there's actually at the front, behind the seat, there's a large access panel.
Cool.
And so even for producing it, we had to have that access into there to squeeze all this in, so we're not reaching through this hole. And so you have serviceability with this large access panel that you can pop off through the front too if you did need to do major service in there. So you have all the valving, and it's also accessible from underneath. There's a shelf in here. This shelf comes out, so through the inside you can get in here and do anything you need to do in there as well. You can the guzzles over here, so it's all squeezed in really tight, but still serviceable though.
What blows my mind is that, what you see with a lot of things, people try to say that the weight isn't that much different and stuff like that, but with your particular setup, it has all of this, and it's still not that much heavier than stuff.
Yeah, full featured.
I can't get over that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And then as far as the exterior here, they're talking about this custom ladder you did here in this bumper. Was this on Walt's side or is this on your side?
So we did this, yeah.
Okay.
So we use this ladder on all of our builds. So it's integrated, so it slides in, goes out of the way, so it locks securely in there, doesn't rattle or anything. So it just slides easily out, comes down. So we did have to modify the descent bumper, so we came in and notched it around so that it clears it. And the camper's sized right, so it just, it's 1/4 inch there or so on the exterior, and it just, because the descent bumper was obviously designed for the stock vehicle, so it does boat hole in just a little bit. And so we came and so we hit it here, sized the wheel wells. We did a lot of work with TAV to make sure the wheel wells were sized properly for 35s, and that's why it's a little bit wider here, because the contact point is up on the bumper, so we wanted to make sure it didn't contact the bumper. So that's intentional. It's set back right there, and then all the sizing in here was done for that. And then back here, so it's all carbon fiber that wraps it, and this is actually Kevlar right here. So it's carbon underneath, and then there's Kevlar. So because the customer, like if you slid on this, we really wanted to keep this, to here, but it had to match the cab first. And so we did a little bit of boat tailing right here. So this has so if you were to slide up this and catch this, there's Kevlar there, so it can bend in and flex. Obviously you'd probably scratch the Raptor liner. But what's cool about the Raptor liner is you can repair it. I mean, you can come in you could spray it, or you could brush it back on and repair that damage. And that Kevlar is going to flex in, and it's going to kind of pop back out. And I'm not saying you could hang it on a rock, but if you scraped up on this and caught there, it's not a hard lip that's going to catch on a rock right there. So that was shaped, to kind of just give it a little bit more shape to match the bumper there. And then this is the fuel filler door. So you have the single fuel filler that goes to both the stock tank and the Long Range America auxiliary tank that takes the place of the spare tire. Right. And so you go in there and you point the fuel nozzle to the left, it goes to the aux tank, to the right to the factory tank. Yeah, so it's single, so it splits, and then the transfer pump is under there and it pumps it up. So when you want to fill the stock tank, it pumps it. So there's a lot going on in a small space right there. So this is definitely a challenge here too. So it's all sealed from the inside. inside. So it's considered sort of external, that box there.
Right.
So all the pipes flow and they just tuck and kind of go up to the tanks there. So that was quite the project to make that work, but it works great.
And then I can see that you made the refrigerator accessible from outside where you're going to be spending most of your time,
Yep.
which is very smart. And then Isotherm, I've never even heard of that brand.
Yeah,
before.
Isotherm marine fridges. This is what we put in all of our campers. They're great. And so when you open it up, so you have that
cool.
direct access. So they're meant to be, so they're, from the marine industry where you're in a small hallway in a sailboat, so you access it from the side.
Right.
So you have the access of a door. One side or the other is going to be blocked when you open a swinging door
Right.
one. So these are actually really nice. They have a tray here, freezer up here, so you have a little storage tray there as well. And so these are really nice fridges.
And then for your electrical system, do you guys have like a specific brand you go with, or how are you doing all that stuff?
It's primarily Victron.
Okay.
So it's all Victron, and this one we did a Xantrex inverter, so we wanted to kind of size the inverter a little bit smaller. So
Right.
the inverter charger, Xantrex, it's behind the front seat. And then it's all Victron, and then batteries are Deep Cycle system, 200 amp hour lithium battery, so really nice batteries from Australia. So you have the Bluetooth monitoring and everything, and then so you have the Victron battery monitor, the Switch Pros switching system. So Switch Pros for all the the electronics that you need to switch, and then it has the Bluetooth capabilities as well too.
Turn on the awning lights with the phone and stuff like that.
The main one is to turn
cool.
the 12-volt hot water heater on while you're driving,
For sure.
so you're not draining your
that's nice.
batteries.
Yeah.
So you just start it up, and we can program that so it turns on automatically when you're driving too. That's an option, but
Right.
we just have it as manual, so you can turn it on.
Okay.
And then it also has the Starlink too. So the Starlink, so the Starlink's on the roof. The customer brought the router. It's placed up in the electrical the storage area, so you can turn the Starlink on from the Switch Pros.
That's
too.
awesome.
Yeah, and you could do that with your phone from the cab also.
So anything else on the exterior that you'd like to cover before we jump onto the inside of this thing?
Yeah, so we have our signature kind of gull-wing door here too. So it goes up and down nice and easy. We size it so that it just clears the awning right there. And then the awning, so this I think Walt covered it, but really light awning. Dirtbox makes really nice stuff. And on these, so we do additional reinforcement here. So this is through bolted, sleeved, and plated because all the weight when it's open is right there. And then the bracket. So we do our custom awning brackets integrate into the T-slot. And then this one, see, it's wrapped and covered around the back. So that makes that corner really structural. There's also internal reinforcement on that corner. So we just kind of go overboard on that, and you can see how it's not going to move the camper when the awning moves a little bit, but these are a little scary.
Right.
For,
Yeah,
the big awnings, the wind load, and obviously this probably should be tied down, but it's fine right now. And then I think we already covered the tire carrier, but on back here, so we use the blind spot monitors, so the factory blind spot monitors, they work perfectly. So there's no error codes on this except for the airbag one, which we're going to fix. So we did have to take the airbags out of it. And then on the outside, I guess the other side, since we're on the outside. Yeah, so on our campers, we really prioritize storage. So storage is really an issue on a lot of truck campers, and so we like to have at least some outdoor access storage. And then this one is a drop down, because if it flipped up, it would be kind of in your face. And so you have a little outdoor table, and then you have the storage in here. So there's L-track, little carpet, and then this is also accessible from inside when you open up the bench too.
Cool.
So you have that dual access to it. And then there's a motion sensor light in here too. So you wave your hand, it's probably blocked by the cargo, but there's a light in here as well too. Yeah, Arctic turn, dual pane window. And then this is the quick connect for the outdoor shower. This one doesn't have the shower on it. The customer just didn't feel it was necessary. But we can do obviously the shower awning out here as well. And then auxiliary solar input for portable solar, and then this is the shore power charging, 120 volt charging.
And that's a 15, 30?
15 amp, yeah.
Okay.
The charger could do 30 amp, but this is much more convenient to use a standard household outlet, because 30 amp is really if you're in an RV park running a big air conditioner, you don't need that. This is much more convenient for household general use. Yeah, and then on this too, I didn't go into it, but this is the rear door that's been cut, then grafted on, so it has a flange welded on the back, and it's bolted in, and then it uses the door hinges on the inside right here to locate it, so you're able to adjust it and everything. And then this had the plastic panel right here, like the sail panel, but we needed to extend it, so this is another sheet metal, piece of sheet metal that goes on over it, that's welded onto the back of the door structure. So that's all, we just use the door because there's, to fabricate this, and this is actually part of the door here too. So, but it had to get cut and sectioned because the wheel well is larger than the factory. So we couldn't just leave it as one piece. So I had to get sectioned and shortened a little bit, but it came together pretty well.
Okay, so moving into the interior of this thing, which is incredible how much space you get. Like, how wide is this?
So the outside of the camper is 76 inches wide.
Okay.
Yeah, so about 74, maybe 73 and a half on the inside.
Yeah, because you were saying before, it basically turned this into a 6-foot bed, but you
Yep.
get way more space in this because of the way you guys designed it. And the wheel wells, you don't even notice they're way out of the way, but you also have like the couch section here and stuff. So it's amazing how much room is in here, but I will let you go over all the details on the design of the inside here.
Sure, yeah. So we have the lifting bed platform that goes completely out of the way. So this comes up and down really, really easily. It just kind of hinges up and down on the gas struts. Really easy to push up and down, kind of self-adjust to what bedding is up there. So this has the X-Bed semi-inflatable mattress. So you just kind of pop the air valves and it goes up. But this would work with a standard probably 4-inch foam mattress as well too. So we can adjust for that as well. Yeah, so to pull the bed down, it's pretty simple. You just kind of just give it a tug. So I mean, I don't even have to do it. It just kind of catches, it comes down, clears the window. So there's space. You can see the sleeping bag's up there. You could keep a pillow up there at the front. And then the windows here are the lights, do clear it when it goes up. So they're outside of the bed. So you can see the front and then the lifting structure here too. So you grab that, pull the front down. And then we have the tensioning on the tent, and then the strap that goes around the back of the board there. It helps pull the tent in.
Okay.
So you're not going around pushing the tent in or anything. And then you go back up, just lift it up.
That's effortless.
And it just kind of give it a little push towards the front, coax it in, and you just push it all the way up. So it's really easy.
That's awesome.
And then in here, so starting in the back, so the overhang is pretty short. Normally on our campers, we have the galley back here, but on this one, we kept all the weight central in here. So the water tank, battery system, and then the fridge are all either in front of or over the axle, including the hot water heater and everything too.
Right.
So there's very little weight past the rear axle. Right. And so on this, the countertop space, which is super functional and convenient. And then down here, this rear cabinet area is designed specifically for the Step 22 Stingray boxes. And so this is, so you have 4 of them in here, fit right nicely into the cabinet that's sized for it. And then these are on magnets. So we installed magnets in the back of the bag so they don't come out, and then they pop open just to make sure they don't fall forward. Right. But most of the weight kind of falls down. Yeah. You can hear it click into place, and so that keeps it nice. And then it's also, see how they're upside down, which is slightly annoying for the OCD, but it's upside down because there's a handle. Although they're new versions, actually I was just over there, their handles are on both sides, but the way the zippers work, you can actually just open this and get in directly without actually taking the bag out too. So that's pretty nice. So we would probably keep them upside down for future. So we really like the system. I mean, the Step 22 boxes are fantastic. And then that one over there specifically, that one's a little deeper, that cubby, so that one's specifically for the bedding over there too. And then you have your easy access cubbies over here too. So you can kind of grab and go, just your camping stuff that you want to place there, headlamps, that sort of a thing. Just kind of a convenient access there. And then there's a little bit more storage down below. So lots of storage, right? And so then this is the access for the storage that we saw outside.
The box.
So
wow, that is a ton.
You can get right in there. So it's quite a bit of storage. The light turns on as soon as you open it.
That's cool.
With the motion sensor. And then, nice 3-inch mattresses with this Sunbrella fabric. So really nice fabric on these.
Good spots.
And then you can see the inside of the window here. And this is where the bed platform lands. We decided it stops right at the end of the galley here, the bed platform, so you can still stand back here. You can get out. You can get out of here, out of bed, and still stand up. But we decided just to continue this all the way to the back, so you don't have a sharp point right here. Yeah. It is a little bit unfortunate. This does get into your kind of neck when you're sitting here. It's just kind of one of those things that it's just. We've thought about a few different options for it, but we just went with something solid and proven. And then there's L-track connection points all along here, so you can hang gear off of this and make do an easy connection point there.
Right.
And then on this one, this is another open storage. So this one here opens up, locks out, so you have a ton of storage in here as well. And that you can see the back of the shower there. And then this is actually sized to fit a wrap-on toilet in, so you can store a wrap-on toilet there. Unfortunately, you can't use it because of the wheel wells. You need the space underneath, but you can store one there, bring it outside, that sort of a thing. And we do have some options where we can do it, where we do a door here, and the wrap-on toilet can slide out. So they offer a slide there. So that is an option too, to have a wrap-on toilet in there and have it slide out right here. But the customer just really wasn't concerned about a toilet, but we did size it for that because he does use the wrap-on toilets.
What materials? What is this made out of?
So this is all Rich Light.
Okay.
So it's Richlite, 1/4 inch, and you can get away with 1/4 inch on these because Richlite is very stiff, and it's a really nice material. So it's made from, I think it's like wood pulp and resin, and so it's been around for a long time. It wears really nicely, and it's lightweight when you do it in 1/4 inch. A lot of times in the home or something, it might be 1 inch thick, but it's too heavy. But it's a really nice material, and there's not a lot of options for non-wood. In our other campers, we offer bamboo as well too. So we offer customers a choice of bamboo or Richlite. But beyond that, you're kind of going to the standard RV kind of stuff, or you're looking at wood options.
Yeah.
There aren't too many. There's a few other things we've considered for that too, but we like the Richlite a lot too.
And it looks great too. Is this the color that it comes in?
Yeah, so that's blue. So they only
great.
have a few color options, and there's a slate, which you can see in some places. So this is the slate color here, the charcoal that we use in a couple places. So there's a couple color options. And then all the benches are on magnets, so we're really rattle conscious in this. So we really try to keep the rattles down in here, or eliminate them. And so all these are on magnets, so you pop it up, and so it keeps them from clattering. And there's also cork laid on them to keep them from rattling as well too. And then then over here, keeping going on the benches. So this one has the electrical system in here. And that holds up on a magnet. And then, so in the middle there, the Starlink router is just kind of sitting in there, but that'll get kind of placed properly in there. So there's L-track in there to store that too. And then, so yeah, all Victron based with the Deep Cycle Systems battery, 200 amp hour lithium. And then, so all, ABYC compliant, wiring and fusing. We take a lot of pride in our wiring. And properly, proper installation, proper components, all high-grade components.
Yeah,
the battery protect, so your low voltage cutoff, your DC charger from the engine, which we put these auxiliary cooling fans on right there too, so those turn on while it's driving. And then the solar chargers down below. And then the switch pros down there, which we put on a terminal block for serviceability. And then the inverter is just right on the other side, is behind the driver's seat. So it's just kind of tucked in that area that's down below, and the angle of the seat down there. And then with the pass-throughs, you can see its size. So we spent some time, making sure that the seats can recline somewhat, right? So you can see there's actually the cabinet is actually set back a little bit from the front wall, and then the opening clears the end of the side of the seat, I should say. So you can put that back a little bit more. I think the seat is already slid back quite a ways. And so we want to, obviously we're trying to, the give and take, to maximize the interior, but making sure that the seat can at least go back a fair ways. Obviously you're not going to get totally flat, but we did think about all that kind of stuff. And then this one has the water tank in it there too. So you have the 18-gallon water tank, and then you have your 120 volt breakers there as well too. And then that all kind of feeds over to the water system right there. So nice centrally located, the weight, battery, water tank, and then the hot water heater, all well forward of the axle, centrally located.
Yeah, that's very well thought out.
Thank you.
Yeah, and on the seat thing, they don't recline back, but honestly, if you have a passenger that's wanting to fully recline, they could really climb back here.
Yeah.
Lay down back
You could lay down back here while you're driving, yeah, for sure.
And then over here, I'm seeing, are these actual storage right here too?
Yeah, so these lift up. So you have storage inside these too.
Nice.
And then these, this is here for the bed to sit on.
Right, okay.
So the bed, these are all in plane so that it sits down on there. We just couldn't turn down the opportunity to put more storage in it.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So you have,
looks great.
So they're on magnets, so they stay, they don't rattle. And then you see the gas struts that, the two, so those ones push it forward and these ones push it up, and so they work together to move it up, very easily. And then on here, so you have the Richlite countertops here, and then this, because the bed comes down over the sink, so we have to have this type of faucet that comes up and down like that. So this is like a German faucet from RE Global. They're like importer all the nice German expedition vehicle type equipment. So it's a really nice faucet. You have the controls, like an on-off there, water pumps off, and then so that just stows down like that. And then the built-in induction cooktop, so true induction. Nice built-in. We like to do the built-in induction because it acts as a countertop space, right?
Yeah,
it's a
it
hot
looks
plate.
great.
You can put your pan on there that you bring from outside or whatever, and so it's usable. These are really hard. I've never broken one. I've banged a lot of cast iron pans on these. On ours, it's built in, and so you have the countertop space here. But what's cool is you have countertop space over there. You have, okay, maybe this isn't a ton of countertop space, but this is usable as countertop space. But over there, you have a huge countertop space over there when the bed is up, right? And so that's all usable countertop space over there. Obviously, you have to get, take it out before you put the bed down, but that's a good place to throw a duffel bag, or something like that too during the day. It just keeps it out. You don't have to, bring it over here. It's extra gear during the day too. And then there's a drawer. The drawer here, all made out of the Rich Light as well too. So soft close with the positive lock, so it's not going to open or rattle. And then this one has the under sink storage in there too. And so you can lift those up, the shelf in there, to access some of the things in another direction for the water system.
And then, sorry, this does have a gray water tank?
This is not. So this drains directly to the ground.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So that's what we like to do.
But you can just put a bin down there.
Put a bucket, and so what we actually have on it is a garden hose quick connect on it. And so you can, so it comes out, it kind of goes down and it points a little bit more underneath the center of the truck, so it's not like draining right at the edge.
Right.
And then you can go under there and you can put a garden hose quick connect on it, and then you can run a garden hose out further away. If you want to run a longer one and get it, off the outside of it, which is nice. But of course, you can just put a bucket underneath it too, especially when you're like in a parking lot sort of situation.
Yeah.
You're a paved campground. But we like the directed. Gray water is just, it's just more. There's not a ton of room in here. I mean, where would you put it? It's kind of one of those sort of things. Don't want to carry on that weight. And the gray water tanks start smelling too.
Yeah.
So we don't really like them, but we can put them in, and we're putting one in the one that we're in the shop right now building. So it's definitely an option.
I think a bucket works fine, and honestly, in that situation, if you really needed to, you could store it in the bucket, and they got those screw-on lids if you're in that situation. But
then, so for the fridge that's in here, so we really, just like with the electrical system, we're really conscious of airflow, so it does have proper ventilation, and there's a fan in there that's temperature controlled, so if it does start getting warm in there, so you don't want to overheat your chargers and your electrical components in there, so there's an automatic fan that draws air in, so you have an additional ventilation here, there's ventilation on the other side, and then the fan that pulls air in and out of there, or pulls it out of there. And then on this, similar with the fridge, so you have the ventilation fan here, but then there's another big ventilation, as you can see it's up in here, so there's a big vent, so I can actually feel it coming out of it. And then there's an auxiliary fan, like a big computer fan that's in there, so it keeps the airflow, because you have the fridge in a space like this, it'll start to overheat and it'll just start running all the time. So you can actually feel it coming out. I can feel the auxiliary fan running right now. And then so it draws air in right here. And then it pulls the hot air out through the back. And so we make sure, and then there's an additional vent on the other side of this cabinet, so it's not sealed. So very conscious of that with these fridges, getting proper ventilation too. So we think about all that. And then the S-Bar gasoline heater is underneath here. So it's tucked under there. So it's in the space between the wheel well, so you can see the outlet right there on this side too.
And I'm sure that does great in here with all the insulation.
Oh, as soon as it gets warm, you got to turn it off. You're opening the windows and it's crazy. And so the S-Bar heater is the nicest heater you can buy. It has the highest elevation rating.
Yeah.
Very reliable, German. It's the best.
And that is, you said the gasoline version. Do you know what elevation that's good?
Up to 16,000 feet.
Okay, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And then down a little more detail, so there's a 120 volt outlet down there, and then more USB-C fast charging. So there's all the ScanStrut fast charging, USB-C. So the customers, and then they're finally available now to have USB. That took the industry a little while to catch up to USB-C. So we do have a couple of standard USBs in here as well too. So there's dual USB-C fast charging there, dual USB-C fast charging down here at the bench, and then down in the storage down here too. So there's standard USB. And there's a 12 volt socket outlet down here, so if you wanted to charge something down there, whether USB or you might have some gadgets and some drone or some camera equipment that you can charge down there. And then there's also on this side inside here, there's also a 12 volt socket and more USB, so that's a USB and a USB-C in that one too. So all ScanStrut, all really nice USB chargers. And then what else is in there? And then these are the lifting board system here too, and then so it helps you lock it up and put it up pretty easily. It makes the roof really solid too, so it doesn't move and sway in the wind.
What would you say setup time is? If you're in a rainstorm, you're trying to get in here real quick to set up your bed and be inside.
It's pretty quick. I mean, you basically have to unlock 4 latches, come in here, you push the back up, push the front up, that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's nothing really else to do.
For how little amount of space this is, and for how little weight this is really incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's seating for 4. I mean, you can certainly have 4 people. We had 4 people in here, you know, a number of times.
Yeah.
You know, it's comfortable. Yeah, I mean, queen size bed too. You know, with standing room to sit, or sorry, sitting room on the bed. So we size the tent, you know, and the roof system so that you can sit up properly in bed. And so because you have the board in the back over there too, so you can lean up against that and lounge up there. That's why we do the vertical lift, not the wedge. The wedge is easier to make, but it gives you all that space up there.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
So.
And then these are just for like hanging clothes or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that might as well.
Touch. Pretty amazing, man.
Thank you.
There's gonna be a lot of interest in these for sure. This is wild. It's one of those things where I've seen this stuff over in like Europe and stuff like that. You know, they've been doing this for a long time with like the Land Cruiser 70 series, but to see some of this being produced here now is very cool to see.
Yeah. Yep, all those European and Australian campers that are just never available here. You know, and you know the focus with this is, you know, off-road performance first, and then you put a house on the back, you know, after the fact, right? And so keeping it within that, you know, reasonable range of weight, and you know, keeping the performance there, keeping the center of gravity low, keeping it functional, and yeah, I think we got there.
For those of you watching this that are seeing this and you're like, that's probably not something I'll be able to pull off, you are planning on doing new types of campers as well. I know you have, aren't you working on like Tundra?
Yeah, so we just finished a 3rd gen Tundra. You know, primarily we do the frame mounted, you know, truck campers, and so we can offer them on the new Tacoma, the 4th gen Tacoma, the Ranger with a 6-foot bed, because they have the payload capacity. So we do prefer 6-foot bed or bigger. 5-foot bed is just a little bit too small to really kind of fit all the features in it. And so, yeah, and then, you know, Ford Super Duty, we also offer flatbed campers as well, too. So, you know, so we can do flatbeds as well.
And those are they're all going to have, I'm sure you have different options, but most of them will come fitted similar to this, right?
Similar. So this is the mid-size layout. So on the Ranger, which is the next camper that's coming in, the next truck that's coming in for a camper, so it'll have this same layout on the mid-size, just because it's a little bit shorter and we want to keep the weight balance and keeping the galley. Although when we do the galley, I mean, you really just have the fridge out back, and then of course you have the storage and the cabinetry there, but it's all very light. And then on the full-size platforms, you know, like I said, the kitchen back here, and then the wraparound bench. So it's a very different layout, you know. So you have the storage up there, and we have the YouTube videos, you know, and you can check out that shows the, you know, the interior on those.
Cool. I'll link some of those in the description.
But again, you know, storage priority. So we have the big pass-through gear tunnel that goes in the front, wardrobe storage up top. So a lot of storage.
Pretty sweet,
That's
man.
what we try to focus on.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for walking us through this thing. This is very impressive.
Thank you.
Well done,
Thanks
sir.
for checking it out.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Follow us on Instagram and Enduro Campers, and YouTube too.
Yep, and I will put some links down below for all of the stuff he's talking about on their channel, so you can go check some of that out, and feel free to reach out to them if you want to do something crazy with your truck. So thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Your arm hurt?
No, I'm good.
As always, thank you so much for watching, and click one of the videos in the corner to check out more of our adventure, off-road, and overland related content.